This forest in Northern Ireland has stories of druids, cursed stones, and people vanishing without a trace. Mount Asahi in Japan was the site of a very eerie incident, with a mysterious SOS sign but no explanation for who actually built it, and at a forest in Vermont 5 people disappeared in just 5 years, from hunters to college students, all gone without a trace. These are disturbing forests where people vanish without a trace. Ballyboley Forest in Northern Ireland is one of those places that just feels off. It's notoriously haunted. People have been talking about it for hundreds and hundreds of years. The story goes that ancient druid rituals happened here. Some say the trees themselves hold some kind of leftover energy from those ceremonies, and that if you wander too deep, you might never come out. The forest isn't just spooky because of the history though. People have seen things there that just don't make sense. Mist will appear out of nowhere, voices whisper in empty spaces, and the temperature can drop so fast you'll just start shivering for no reason. Back in the 90s, 2 guys went for a walk and started hearing footsteps that sounded like their own. They turned a corner and then saw 4 figures in ancient looking clothes right in the path. They ran and the figures followed for a bit before seemingly disappearing into thin air. Disappearances are part of the forest's reputation too though. Stories go back generations of people walking in and never coming out. And then there are the stones. Stone circles and weird rock formations scattered around, said to mark spots where the line between our world and something else is thin, and some say if you touch them, bad luck will follow. Car crashes, sickness, pets dying, or worse. This is a pretty eerie story. Back in 1989, 2 Tokyo guys got lost when climbing Mount Asahi in Japan. Luckily, they were eventually rescued after a helicopter spotted a huge SOS sign made from 19 fallen birch trees. The thing is though, the 2 lost men, they weren't the ones who made that SOS. The sign had actually been there since at least 2 years before they even showed up. The cops had to figure out who made the SOS though, so they went back to check out the area the next day, and that's when they found human remains nearby and a stash of personal items hidden in a tree root. There was a driver's license, a notebook, basketball shoes, 2 cameras, a tape recorder, and some cassette tapes. The license belonged to a man named Kenji Iwamura, missing since 1984. The tapes had him shouting for help for over 2 minutes, trapped on a cliff. Now, the terrain here is pretty brutal. There's a rock called Safe Rock that looks like a giant square safe, but nearby is what is often called Fake Safe Rock. If you slip there, you end up in a thick grove full of sideways growing shrubs. It's almost impossible to get out, which even trapped a news crew who tried visiting after this incident. Now again, this SOS was made out of fallen trees. There were no tools found nearby. It would have taken a massive effort to stack the trees into letters. Based on the condition of Kenji Iwamura's skeleton, it's likely he'd have been too weak to make the sign himself. It's possible, but it's also very possible that someone else made it, someone whose remains have never and likely will never be found. The Bennington Triangle. It's basically Vermont's version of the Bermuda Triangle. Between 1945 and 1950, a bunch of people vanished around Glastonbury Mountain and the surrounding towns, Bennington, Woodford, Shaftesbury, and Somerset, places that were mostly ghost towns by then. The first was Mitty Rivers in 1945, a 74-year-old hunter who knew the area like the back of his hand. He disappeared while out hunting, and all anyone found was his handkerchief months later. A year later, Paula Weldon, an 18-year-old college student, went for a walk along the trail and never came back. Then in 1949, James Tedford, a 68-year-old veteran, got on a bus and disappeared somewhere along the route to Bennington. In 1950, 2 more people vanished. A boy named Paul Jepson disappeared while his mom ran some farm errands, leaving him in the car for just a short time. And just 16 days later, Freda Langer, 53, went hiking near Somerset and never made it back. Her body was eventually found months later, but far from where anyone had been searching. Over just 5 years, 5 people vanished in the same general area, leaving behind almost nothing. Piha has this strange reputation that most people outside New Zealand don't know about. At least 6 people have gone missing here without a trace. Now 6 doesn't sound like a lot, but these are not cases where someone was found later or there was a clear accident. Their bodies, clothes, wallets, phones, nothing has ever turned up. That's the part that gets under people's skin. The official word from coroners usually blames it on drowning or just falling off cliffs, but Piha is a busy spot with surfers, hikers, and lifeguards around. You'd think a body or, at least a phone, wallet, something would wash ashore eventually, but not in these cases. Each disappearance follows a similar pattern though. Someone walks alone on the beach or goes for a swim and they're gone. Families have held out hope, searching the surrounding bush and coastline, but search parties always come up empty. It's gotten to the point where some people call Piha cursed. Next up is Nahanni Valley in Canada, also known as the Valley of the Headless Men. The name alone should tell you everything. You don't get called that unless something really strange is going on. It's up in the Northwest Territories, super remote, surrounded by mountains, wolves, and grizzlies. It's so cut off that even today it feels like one of the last wild frontiers on Earth. And for well over 100 years, people have gone in and not come out, at least not in one piece. See, this is not a case of people always just vanishing without a trace. There are a lot of cases of remains being found, only without their heads. It started in 1908 when the McLeod brothers went searching for gold. They didn't return, and when searchers finally found their camp, the brothers were dead. Their heads were gone. One of them had been reaching for his firearm. The heads were never found. Then in 1917, another prospector named Martin Jorgensen was found the same way, beheaded next to his burnt-out cabin. By the 20s and 30s, more bodies were discovered in the valley. Some burned, some frozen in bizarre positions, and a bunch of people just disappeared completely. And here's where the Dene come in. The Dene are the indigenous people of the Northwest Territories. They warned outsiders to avoid Nahanni, telling stories of the Naha, a fierce tribe that lived in the mountains and would raid, kill, and then retreat back into the valley. The Naha supposedly vanished mysteriously, but some believe that their spirits, or something worse, still haunt that land. Next up is the Shenandoah National Park in Virginia. People go missing here, and not just in the usual got lost in the woods kind of way. Some vanishing spots where hikers are everywhere, and no one sees or hears anything. Search teams have gone in with dogs, helicopters, everything, and still turned up nothing. Footprints, no torn gear, not even a clue about what direction they went. What makes it creepier is that a lot of the disappearances happen really close to the trails, where you'd think it would be the safest. Shenandoah has over 500 miles of paths, and while some are tough, plenty are simple walks. But people just walk into the trees and they don't come back. But this is the Appalachian Mountains, and the Appalachian Mountains have a lot of strange stories. Tales of shadowy figures in the woods, strange lights, and cryptid sightings. New River Gorge in West Virginia looks like the perfect outdoor getaway. Massive cliffs, endless forest, and one of the oldest rivers in the continent cutting right through it. But the park also has a really unsettling side. Since the late 70s, at least 8 people have gone missing here under strange circumstances. One that stands out is Georgia Melinda Stone. She went missing in 2016. Eventually her remains turned up, but not inside the park at all. They were far outside the boundary. As for how exactly she got there, nobody really knows. That same year, another woman, Jasmine Michelle Cruz, disappeared near the border of the park and was never seen again. Next up, we got the Great Smoky Mountains, which had a string of mysterious disappearances. The most famous case is Thelma Pauline Melt in 1981. She was hiking a familiar trail with 2 friends, nothing extreme. At one point though, she walked just a little ahead. She should have only been out of sight for a few seconds, but that was it. She was never seen or heard from again. Her friends searched, rescue teams combed the area, and there was just no trace. She wasn't far ahead. She knew it like the back of her hand, and it wasn't even a dangerous trail anyway. So how does someone just disappear like that? And Thelma's not the only one. The Smokies have a long history of strange disappearances. Other cases of hikers seen moments before they vanished, spotted walking or even just standing there, and then they're just gone. These aren't deep, unexplored wilderness areas either. The Smokies are one of the most visited national parks in the United States, but people still vanish. The Alaska Triangle covers a massive stretch of land between Juneau, Anchorage, and Barrow, and if the stories are true, this might be one of the strangest places in the world. See, since the 70s, there have been more than 20,000 disappearances here. That includes people on foot, planes flying through, and whole groups traveling by boat. A lot of it gets blamed on the landscape. Alaska's wilderness is truly wilderness. Endless forest, glaciers, dangerous mountains, but even with that, 20,000 people, that's an astonishing number. And again, not everyone goes missing on land. Entire planes have disappeared mid-flight without leaving wreckage. So there are other theories, like UFO activity or energy vortexes that could be responsible. Even on land, some people think there are Sasquatches roaming the backcountry. Some native Alaskan stories talk about shape-shifting spirits that lure people away too. Finally, Yosemite. It's one one of the most visited national parks in the United States, but it also has a history of people vanishing in ways that just don't make sense. Over the years, hikers have walked away from their campsites or gone off on short solo hikes, and then it's like the ground just swallowed them up. Entire search teams with dogs, helicopters, and trackers have scoured the area, but in some of these cases, they don't even find a footprint. One of the strangest parts is how quickly these disappearances happen. There are stories of people falling behind their group for just a few minutes, and then they're completely gone. The missing range from very young people to experienced hikers, which makes it harder to explain away as simple accidents. This is actually one of the big areas tied to the whole missing 411 phenomenon. For those not in the know, these are cases where people disappear in national parks, often without any evidence left behind. Sometimes they're never found, and sometimes they are, but very far away at distances that seem impossible for someone without proper food or supplies to cover and somehow survive. Sometimes they'll have no memory of all the days they were missing too. Yosemite has enough of these unsolved vanishings that some visitors actually get creeped out camping there overnight. I've been your host James, and I will catch you, yes you specifically, next time.